Just to make sure the sound. Yeah, there you go. Good. Hey, you're set.
Yeah, I just gotta pull up your PowerPoint. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully everybody can see this in the audience and online.
Yeah.
Ready to go?
Okay. Good evening, folks. Thanks everybody for coming. This is a informational gravel bylaw question meeting. Informal, we don't need a mover to open the meeting. What I've done, folks, is put a 12, 13 page PowerPoint together. We appreciate everybody coming out in this cold weather and explain to me. I'll own it. $6,000 figure was put on the table for council to review. It's got a lot of moving parts, and it was not just for droning. I'll make that very clear right up front. So at the end of the day, a number was put on the table, and if everybody remembers, I was very careful how we reached out to our legal counsel, how to word that resolution, because we didn't have the appropriate costing, the three proposals in front of us. So we did our best. The intent and the spirit was there to do it right, but obviously we missed the procedure bylaw because of you have to understand that you folks have been very patient with us. We went through total staff change in this office. We had new people coming in, and we didn't want to blindside them to work on it. So we reached out to our legal counsel. It was a misunderstanding. He thought at the end of the day that the bylaw will be written out in full. It wasn't because of inexperience, but needless to say, I'll start off, folks, with a slide presentation. Can you do a slide two there? Yeah. Okay. I said earlier on, this thing has a lot of moving parts, folks. What's that? Slide two. Click on slide two. Because as a Reeve, I have to take action with our legal counsel. He was consulted all the way to come up with some numbers and why. Where did the $6,000 come from? Slide number 2. Still one red.
Yeah, outside, it's like it's being fair, but it doesn't work.
Okay, folks, I'll leave that.
Okay, good, we're done.
Go to slide.
Yep, there you go.
Okay, good. I'll leave that up on the screen for the people to read it. I just want to make a comment here tonight. Let's be civil here. I'll go through my slide. Keep your questions till the end. There's papers in the back. If you got some questions, write them down, folks. We're not going to answer them if we don't have the data. And we'll
Do you have
explain.
a copy of that I could read instead of trying to read it off the screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Paper copy?
Yep, absolutely. That was my next comment. Anybody that needs a copy, email James, he will email that in. Good point. Thanks. Hey, what's that?
I can email them out.
Yeah, we can email them. There's another copy here. You need this? Yep.
Sliding that over. It's more viewable.
Can you slide the front bar over to the right? When you got 68%.
I've got chicken scratches on it.
Bottom right. What am I doing? Sorry, I can't see that now. Oh, it's not on your screen? Yeah, what did you need me to do?
If you slide, there's a little on the bottom right-hand
Or
corner.
maybe make a six, yeah, there you go, there you go, yeah. Hold them bigger, yeah. Come on. Here, I know I'm gonna, how are you see this is what I'll do.
I-
Is that better?
Yeah.
I'd say yes.
We'll slide in everything. Okay. So I'll back up again. So anybody that has questions, write it down. There's question sheets in the back. And we'll try to answer them. Right now, our focus for this office is to get the year end done and to get our 2023 budget in place. Right now, the focus will not be on answering the questions. We will get back to you if you leave us your name, the question, and staff will work diligently to get those answers for your questions. So I'll go to slide 2. So right here, I'll go back to the end of 2021. An application came before us from Russell Ready Mix for opening a pit over here in the Cottonwoods area, and council denied it. They had every right to appeal it. It was appealed. At that time, council reached out to the municipal lawyer, to our engineering firm, and to Urban Systems, a planning group, to help us with this appeal. I've never been involved in an appeal, but we got wise legal counsel. With that came meetings via Zoom, reached out to the municipal lawyer, led us through things to look for. So out of that whole appeal thing came this report. It's a public document. I'm gonna read out some of the things that came and where the municipality needed to go. The recommendations from the Burns-Mendel report clearly stated in front of the municipal board. Okay, recommendations for further studies. Based on the findings presented by Burns-Mendel consultant, the following is recommended for further action and study. Review in detail the proponent site plan operations plan. That's one of them. But the next 3 things clearly identifies when he went out there and looked at the road conditions that we had received multiple complaints in writing and verbally from one of the gravel pit owners right around that time, that the gravel that they're moving on those roads, they want a better road, and rightfully so. We sent the engineer out there, council did, authorized the expenditure of those. So one of the things he came back with, to complete a review of the heavy truck road bylaw. A review. I'm not gonna read everything. To date, council hasn't done anything. We increased the provincial rate, but we did not sit down. I asked multiple times since that hearing, I believe it was the end of March, we never sat down as a council to review the bylaw. What can we do to improve things? The next thing, complete a detailed assessment of the existing heavy truck routes, including topographical survey, detailed geotechnical, field and laboratory testing program, and development recommended upgrades and support anticipated for future truck and traffic volumes. The engineer put his case before the municipal board saying those roads really need a detailed engineering study. Again, we did not dispatch anybody to go out there. He wanted to go and do multiple core samples to see, are those roads built for the volume and for the weight of some of those trucks? We didn't act on it. Complete a review of required capital investments. I want to focus in on the capital investment. If you've driven those roads over in that area where the public hearing focused in on, it was obvious that a lot of the public presenters that day came up and said they're really concerned, not only about the capital investment at the municipality, there's other areas that were concerned. Environmental impact. There's gravel pits, water was in the pits, and people are taking canoe and kayak rides in there. These were things that were brought before the municipal board. They heard us. At the end of the day, they heard the municipality's arguments and they rejected the application. So that report is a public document. If you want it, I have no problem if council chooses to put the request in, and we'll check with our legal counsel to see if that an entire document can be made public. I see no problem with it because it went before the municipal board, in my opinion, it's a public document, but we want to be cautious to make sure it goes out there and there's no issues with it. Then go to slide 3. Slide 3 is,
Can I ask a question, please, Sam?
no, there's no questions until the very end. If
Is
you
this,
want
so but is this not an open,
no,
like, is this not a discussion? Like, you guys called a meeting to have a discussion about this, so how can we have a discussion if there's no questions while you're going through it?
No, what I'd like to do is this, Chris, I believe it's good. Chris, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
write
yeah,
down
absolutely.
and slide. Then at the end, you will have the opportunity, we'll give you the first opportunity for any questions, Chris, if you don't mind. Let me walk through the presentation to see where we derived on the $6,000.
I'm just gonna, Chris, respectfully, I'm just gonna mute everybody for now.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay.
So anyways, in front of you is the aggregate haul roads that was submitted with the engineer's report, again, to the municipal board. And I'm not gonna, right now, maybe later on, I'll focus in on that circle, but I've made council aware of something that I put that black circle around there. The bylaws, in my opinion, we want to be transparent, folks. We want to tell you what we're thinking, at least what I'm thinking. So you guys, you folks out there, residents included, can help us solve long outstanding issues out there. In fact, I'll jump right into it. That circle right there. Right now, we've got a bylaw in place, provincially regulated, that there's mileage fees and then there's tonnage fees. On the weekend, I drove out there and I stood on Curry's Landing Road, right by the municipal well, which is 1 mile from the Trans-Canada Highway. And I felt I need to tell my council, I did tonight, but I didn't get any backlash on it. That circle is where the Brian Avey pits are. I thought Brian Avey still owns it. I'm now under the understanding Maple Leaf construction owns it, paving company owns it. So the bylaw, the way it's written, whatever aggregate is moved there, they move it 1 mile north, they pay mileage fees and they pay the tonnage fees. When I looked at it, I kind of thought there's a fundamental problem here, folks. Because if you look at that circle, Maple Leaf is now giving the municipality funding for the aggregate tonnage. Yeah, it's legislated, but then they're turning around, the municipality, us as council, is now spending it down here. Is that fair? I don't think it is. We have to come up with a solution, and I don't have the answers tonight. And there's other pits, 2 pits in particular. Mr. Nicholas sitting right in front of us. I'm almost certain your pit is isolated, so is Tasmania gravel. There's a little bit of a fundamental issue, but that's the legislated. We're regulated and we have to collect the mileage fees and the tonnage fees. I think there's room for improvement or some wording in the bylaw that a lawyer will help us resolve. I just wanted to bring that up. I just thought about it. I've been on council for 20 years. At the end of the day, it's almost unfair for Maple Leaf to pay the tonnage fees and upgrade roads in the south end and vice versa. So anyway, that's why I put that big circle on there, just because I want to be transparent, everything's on the table. So there's the big proposals for scanning the pits, how estimates were generated. 2 years ago, the former CEO, Donna Anderson, went out and worked with Steve Richmond, a survey company, just in talks. Council didn't get into discussion. She wanted to see what it costs to get pits surveyed. 2 years in a row, she came back and council really, we didn't have much of a discussion. At the end of the day, we never got a quotation. So in early November, I did reach out to Steve Richmond. At that time, we had a new CEO. He didn't know anything about the bylaw, no offense to him. We just tried to get the office going. I asked Steve to submit the proposal that he talked to Donna. Steve got back to us with a proposal that was for doing it twice a year. We learned that we can do it. We don't have to do it twice a year, but it was the basis of the $6,000. It was around $3,000, give or take a few dollars, to do one scan or one survey in the spring and one in the fall or whatever. We went to obtain, now that proposal came in on December the 19th. On December the 20th, Burns Mandel submitted a report or a proposal very close to the $3,000 per pit. Okay, fine. We met on December the 20th. Council had both proposals, both costs on there. Either way, it wasn't going to be over $3,000 per scan. We also reached out, we got advice, we should get 3 proposals to make it fair. Needless to say, Sampson Engineering came back with the a LiDAR technology, exactly the same technology as Burns Mandel using, a lot cheaper. He was going to use a helicopter, considerably cheaper. I believe it was a Deputy Reeve, looked at the cost, he divided by the pits. Now it's around $1,600 to $1,700. However, in collaborating with those people, they said, well, why do you want to do it twice a year? Well, that's the way Donna thought Steve Richmond. So at least we had something, the basis to going $6,000. And if you remember, the resolution read intern. So that's where the $6,000 came from. And I said at the night when we had the discussion, it's the bylaw isn't in place anyways, but we'll be fair. We don't want to take somebody's money if it's not merited. But at the end of the day, we needed some data. So then we'll go to slide number. So that's the estimates. Slide number 5 comes out of the Burns Mandel report. And that is on White Road that sees a lot of heavy trucks. That was included in the report to the municipal board. And the engineer had some concerns of the state of the road, the amount of traffic and the weight of those trucks. That's why he wanted an engineering study. It never happened. So there's that. And the next one is Magazine Road, 4.5 miles of it. Council has been made aware for the last 3 or 4 years from our Public Works Department that Magazine Road really, with the amount of tonnage. In fact, in January of 2022 at a budget meeting, Pete Van Langfeld sat before this council or previous council and requested $380,000 to spend on Curry's, Kissing, Whiten, and Magazine Road. And I'll show you the next slide. So that's big money, folks, when the bank account is empty. And yet there's gravel pit owners and haulers out there that have complained. I've received numerous of phone calls while I was a counselor, get Magazine Road fixed. Not only was it gravel haulers, there's residents living on there. We've got multiple texts, emails from people that are upset. They want to see these roads fixed. But if there's no money, where are you going to get? How are you going to fix them when there's no funding? Okay, that one here. The reason I brought that in, it's got nothing to do with the road over there, but we've got multiple subdivisions going on right now that we're asking developers that are building developments in our municipality. We're asking them to build a road to a specification. This one was done in Chater, and I believe Mr. Patterson is right there. He was involved, I believe, in some of the development agreement. There's something to do with that, which is okay. I mean, we gotta make sure when developers leave town that they leave us a good product. And I brought that up there. If that's for residential traffic, can you imagine what the spec should be for a 120,000 pound truck? It's probably gonna be that, but that's what we're expecting from developers that are coming in here asking for an application. That's what we're doing. The picture on your left there. This municipality in 2021 spent $40,000 on about a 5/8 mile of road called special gravel. This was taken about 2 weeks ago. That's what we're left with. Folks, we have to do something different. Just keep on doing the same thing and expecting different results. I'm not going to tell you what the definition is of that, but that's really sad when we have a road that it was budgeted for 70, it came in at 40. But we have to start doing things different. This is a residential road. It's not a truck road, but I'm just giving you an example. The way we've been doing things, I think as a council, this council needs to step back. How are we doing things right? And we want to listen to the experts. Go to the next slide. This is a road rebuilding cost calculated. We just got this report, I would say about 2 weeks ago. Manitoba municipalities were legislated by the province to have an asset management plan together. We hired it out to a firm in Saskatchewan. They contracted it out. KGS got the contract for this municipality and probably for many others. But this was actually in their submission report. KGS is going to be a public document. We're going to receive this communication here in the next week or two. And it's going to be on our website. In there, what caught my eye is this, folks. This, look how much money it costs. 1 mile, 45,000 for surface fixing, 150 millimeters. We have never put 150 millimeters of upgrade over on White Road magazine. Well, it's gonna cost $45,000. Well, when the bank account is empty, somebody better tell this council how to upgrade 30 kilometers as per the Burns Mandel report, just on this side. We haven't even talked to the south side yet. So that's a significant amount of money. And what our engineer wanted to do, he wanted us to act, go do a study. We will tell you as professionals, this council doesn't have the knowledge to say how to upgrade a road. Let's let the professional, they went to university for that, tell us how to do it. And I'm willing to spend a few dollars to go out there and see, are we doing the right thing? I think there's opportunities to make some repairs, but not to 30 miles, folks. Go to the next one. This is another report, aggregate mined and transported from 2016. Donna Anderson submitted that to a resident that's in our audience during the municipal hearing last March. It's data, if somebody can, I mean, there's a way you can sit down and calculate the dollars and cents that can be calculated what this municipality gets. It far nowhere near the money we need to fix the roads. I'm talking about drivable roads, not just turkey trails and just sending 120,000 pound trucks down the road. So that's just thought I'll include that for council and for what we're dealing with here. Go to the next one there, James, please. Yeah. Which one are you on? Oh yeah, that one there. Okay. This one, that's what really got our 3 professional firms asking council a lot of questions last March. I'm glad the former reeve of this municipality and the councilors here, they sat in the audience. So did Councilor Brown. When those 3 consultants met in this room via Zoom, they said, well, something's not right. Look at the expenditures versus the income on a 5-year snapshot. We spent more money. That's on haul roads. We got that information. Donna Anderson, the former CEO, I did not compile it. She gave it to Mr. Cramley and myself, and I presented that to the board. The board had a lot of questions. Is that right? I said, well, that's the CEO. She's the boss. She's the manager. She's got the key to the accounting software. So that's the information that was submitted. It's a little bit disturbing over a 5-year period. Yes, highs and lows, but you can clearly see $212,000 more expenditures than revenue. There's a fundamental problem here, folks. It needs to be fixed. Can't fix it here tonight. Okay. Go to the next one. The next one is the most disturbing one. This is gas tax. I'm not going to get into gas tax, but gas tax is from the federal government sent to every municipality in this country per capita, not how much fuel you use. It's per capita. How many residents do you have? From 2009 to 2019, this is in the gas tax summary. That's a public document. James Montgomery can also forward that to you folks. This was submitted to the Public Utilities Board as well. $776,000. Some of it, I do believe, was pavement on Curry's Landing Road. I believe the second lift, but it went to haul roads. That's the key right here, folks. We're using money, in my opinion, not saying I'm right, that money needs to go to communities. Right now, Grand Valley is looking for infrastructure money. Spruce Woods is looking for a lagoon. We're gonna have to start using some of this gas tax money. We just spent it on the Meadowbrook Lagoon and some for the Chater wastewater. That's the intent as per the federal government, the rules, regulation. It needs to go into capital. I think if we would get audited and find out where that gas tax money will, I think we might get our fingers slapped, because I don't think it was merited, because we keep going back, maintaining the same road that we just spent $776,000. That, we gotta change our focus here. I'm not saying let our whole roads go to the pots, but we have to maintain them, folks, with the money that's coming in, but you cannot use, in my opinion, federal gas. We shouldn't be using federal gas tax on communities where we can use it to build up communities. I think that's the way this municipality has to focus. Okay, next one.
That's, we're on 12.
Yeah, 12, yeah, okay. Okay, there's the request last January. Our first budget meeting in 2022, where Pete Langbanfeld, I put it right on the screen for you folks. He requested $380,000, primarily Magazine and Curry's Landing Road. That's two roads that are the main arteries over here where most of the gravel gets moved. You can see my comments in the bottom. Council did not proceed because of the lack of funding and aggregate haul roads account. Don Anderson threw up her hand. She said, folks, there's no money. There was some talk using gas tax money, and I spoke up. I said, whoa, enough. We gotta look at this whole aggregate haul road expenditures a little bit different. Okay, now the last one, folks, there's no secret. I want you folks, everybody, I'm not an accountant. This is very disturbing here. 2021 aggregate mining was given to all of council. It's confidential information by our financial analyst. We're going to keep it confidential amongst us. First time I seen that document, it was confidential up till 3 weeks ago. We were never given, council was never given that sheet to look at. It was, we were told by the previous CEO, it's confidential. So there's 35 licenses issued in 2021. 16 licenses did not remit. Okay, so didn't remit. I was certain I seen one customer haul out of a pit. Out of courtesy, I says, I'm struggling here. When I got the sheet, I phoned him up, he forgot. I'm not gonna mention the name. Well, folks, in this municipality cannot conduct business if people forget to remit their gravel of remittances. There's we're legislated, our bylaw was broken. Council in Brown, Councilor Brown had a talk. We were never made aware. What? What
They sent in.
you know, I'm talking 2021, that's what was reported to us. $246,000 and 76, $246,766 was remitted, and it is on the sheet here. And it's also on our audited financial statement, and the province signed off on it. So that's 246, the CEO and the Reed signed off on it. But what's really surprising is in the bottom here, folks. And I made a slight error. I hope you guys forgive me. What it's showing, I've got 8 top licenses. It needs to be the 8 top remitters. Could be multiple pits. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 companies make up for 99.9% of the 246,000. One company is responsible for 37%. The other one, 12, 13, 10. So we can't, that's just A, B, C, and D companies. We're not going to disclose who that is, or else you guys, somebody wants to go to the Freedom of Information Act, but that's we have to conduct business. Those roads over there, folks, whoever's a big user, we had Mr. Collette, I believe, here tonight. He had every reason in the January meeting to say our roads, and he's using them a lot, and he's conducting business. He has a right to complain. The roads are not satisfactory. I drove it down last Saturday. I got 700 pounds in the back, my rear end of my truck at 70 kilometers was fish tailing. I wish we could do something about it, folks. There's just no money. Something has to change. Droning was just one component, what I was trying to inform council. We've got a problem here. And we need the pit owners to help us solve this. So that's my last slide, folks. I hope you understand. End of the day. And Chris, I owe you an answer for your question. If you wouldn't mind, I'll answer that question now. The data. I on our phone call, I told you the residents are subsidizing. The data was just provided to you. I call that subsidization, what we're doing. The residents are subsidizing some expenses on these truck roads. Well, Chris,
Hey, can I speak?
go ahead, ask the question. So,
James, am I allowed to speak now?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So, Sam, thanks for providing the data. I think there's other individuals in the room that have some questions as well. But I think part of our conversation that we did have, Sam, was there's 2 or 3 items here that I think that are apparent. One is there's an asset, which is municipality assets, which are the roads. And there's no question, I think we all agree that the shape of the roads or the type of roads that we're traveling on in some cases aren't substantial for the amount of current traffic that's happening. I think part of it is there is ebbs and flows into that. It's not every year that the same amount of volume is on the traffic or is on the road. So understand, but I think there's 3 points here. The one point is there's assets that are the municipalities that maybe in the past, maybe some of those roads haven't been built, hasn't been strong enough to handle the weight. So I think that's one discussion, and I think that you presented obviously some costs to rebuild and repair. I think there's another point here that is the licensing fees that's overlapping with the droning fees. And I understand that the way you present, I appreciate that on showing that, but the droning fees don't necessarily do anything but cost everybody more money versus helping with the solution. So I'm not entirely sure, and I don't entirely agree with the droning concept, because you have 16 individuals that they may have not have taken a yard of gravel out of their pits in this past year. But that's also part of an administrative role to confirm if that's happening, and also going to the policing. I think the other thing that we see here with this report is, yes, there's data information that offsets pricing and costs. And the way I see it on a couple of your slides there, you've got some years that were very positive, and you got some years that weren't so positive as far as income goes. As far as capital costs, as we all know in business, and I know that's not the same in municipalities and government, but from a business perspective, we all take a look at the capital expenditures that need to take place on a regular basis to get the life of the roads and the assets. And on the end of it, what's the maintenance cost of those? And so I think that is a conversation that could be had within the group here, as well as council, to discuss through those slides, because I think some years you're going to have extremely high traffic, and some years you may not have as high traffic. But the reality of it is if the asset isn't in good low times or high times, and it just impacts the problem with tomorrow's pricing. And so I think that and then the last point I think I see is there's obviously some remittent or some government communication where the municipality may not be getting all the information from the government as far as levies go, so that they don't necessarily know what those incomes are going to be. And I think if you, as in business, and you speak a lot to this group, and you speak a lot through your presentation, that you're looking at it that there's a subsidy scenario. Well, it may look like taxpayers are paying for it, but the reality of it is we're talking about 30 miles of road here. We're not talking about all the roads in the municipality. And if we were to turn around and look at what's the cost of maintaining those 30 miles, the capital cost to rebuild those roads. I'm talking about the maintenance cost, and we were to turn around and say that there was $8,000 a year, let's say, or $10,000 a year, even if you want to take it a high level of what it would cost to maintain those roads, if they were in good shape, then we're talking about $300,000. And I think your presentation shows that you have that income coming in. So I'm not saying that that your presentation is wrong, and I'm not saying that it is not accurate. What I'm saying is I don't think we're identifying the issues currently that you're seeing as challenges. And I think that this group is more than willing, and I know that the gravel, I'll speak for myself, is more than willing to find those solutions with you, but we're not more than willing to be chastised to say that that taxpayers are subsidizing, because you have to take a look at total assets of all of your roads, the value of them, and what the maintenance costs on all the roads. And reality is we're only allowed to travel on 30 miles. So, if we look at it like true, we got to look at what's those 30 miles costing to maintain, what's those 30 miles also creating for income to the municipality. And in speaking with some of the other municipalities, they look at gravel resources and revenues coming in as an additional to budget. So I think that that's a very positive for the municipality of Cornwallis to have the amount of gravel aggregate pits in their municipality, but it also creates challenges through it. I will say the safety of the roads goes back to the maintenance of the roads, and it also goes back to the built of the roads. If there's a truck that's hauling 120,000 pounds or 100,000 pounds down a road, and they're speeding and they're not abiding the safety rules, then that's a completely different conversation. And I think that is, we're all open to that conversation because nobody wants to see unsafe that's happening on the roads. So my question really is, I appreciate you opening the door to be able to have the conversation. I think it's important that the questions get out tonight, because I think, and it can't be just on a piece of paper, because I think part of where this thing got off is that the dialogue didn't happen. The experience and understanding wasn't expressed, it wasn't discussed, and it wasn't being able to have some dialogue around it to be able to come up with some solutions. And I will say that in the last meeting, I think there was some great presentations from other individuals that are in the industry that presented solutions based off of some of the reports. So we've got some numbers in front of us. I welcome them. I think that it's not all the numbers, but I think that there's three or four separate issues here that can be addressed, and there can be solutions put around them.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Mr. Gunn.
Yeah, you were talking about your 5-year average. So just doing some quick calculation,
Can you bring it up?
you're only 25,000 a year on a 5-year average.
Yeah.
You're asking for $6,000 per pit, which accumulates to about over $200,000, probably close to $240,000. If your droning is only $1,800 to $2,000, we're only $60,000. Where's the rest of that money gonna go?
Mr. Cummings, that's a good question. That one I can answer. If you heard me the night when the intent was there to move forward, the intent was interim. We didn't have all the quotes in. When the Samson quote came in, I was happy. Came to $1,700, which is a positive, okay? There's more to that license, in our opinion, talking to the experts last year, than droning and measuring. It's engineering. The minute you put engineering, pay for engineering out of the fees, the people that are hauling, the big users, the 39%, he's getting penalized. He's paying a good portion. The way I see it, I'm not an accountant. So actually you're penalizing the person that's using that road the most. So to put everybody in the same playing field, the first thing we have to do is establish the engineering, get the roads assessed, and then how much money do we need to upgrade them to make them safe? I will say, we've got too many haul roads. Dennis might not agree with me tonight because his road.
Just a secondary to that question, you have no idea what your truck traffic is every year.
No.
Because it's based on work that's being tendered out by municipalities, provincial, whatnot. This past year, this 2022 year, you still don't know what your money is, because it doesn't have to be submitted until February. So I wouldn't do anything until you know how much money you got, because next year you're not gonna have as many truck traffic. Because there's 4 projects that are wrapping up this year. They took a pile of aggregate out of that area. And, you know, just so to say that, you know, you're gonna be up and down year after year. And for you guys to go spend this kind of money on a road that may only get the traffic every 3 years, every 4 years, it's hard to say. And then to ask us pit owners who are here every year, hauling out our small amounts, not big projects, pay that kind of money, I think is unfair to us. Now, we still want to have a good road. We want to sit down and work with you, and we want residents who are driving up and down those roads to be safe. I mean, I drive those roads too. I don't want a truck running into me, and if I see one of our trucks going fast, we'll look after that. You know, I wish your police would come out and pull them over, because we're okay with that, you know, those types of things. But I think there's the process of how you approached us, I think was wrong. I think you guys were more confrontational with us, and we needed to make sure we sit. And we can fix this problem, because I don't think that's an issue. But we wanted to have a committee to sit down with the council and do that, and I was even with the previous council, and none of that ever happened. So all we hear is another $6,000, we're gonna drone your pit, and that's what's being heard. And droning isn't the most accurate thing. So it could be out, anywhere from 10 to 20%. They can go either way, and then Dennis Collette and I were talking about other things where we build berms up and then they get packed down, so. There's so many variances involved there that you're not gonna get an accurate picture, and you might be costing us more money.
Mr. Cummings, I'm not a surveyor expert. I'm a mechanic by trade. I'm not an LDAR. I didn't talk to anybody from LDAR. We reached out to the people that deal with those for advice. I don't have a clue how LDAR works. I mean, I got it after reading the brochures, but you have to trust the people that are
Trying to sell this.
kind of recommending that, because
Well,
we,
if we have a disagreement with the others going, then we're gonna have a legal problem.
and we don't want to go there.
We don't.
Even though we've got a lawyer sitting amongst us,
Yeah.
they get paid well.
So to drone people,
But they're there to do their
it's not
job.
cheap to hire a guy out to drone, it's
Yeah,
expensive.
that the last thing we want to do is spend money foolishly, but the $6,000. Yes, it looked like it was for droning, but there's administration costs. We need an engineer to go out there and assess some roads. That needs to happen immediately. We'll put it in this year's budget to give council an
Well, I
idea.
don't think you need to build a road so it's RTEC.
Nobody said Artec.
You have Curry's Landing Road, it's the best trucking road in the whole province. And I think Spring Valley, so whatever's been done to those roads, you built that. Now it's just a matter of maintaining.
It's costly.
And I don't think you put a pile of gravel on that road for quite a while, because we drive it, but there's a grader, and it's a good road. You can't have 50 trucks a day go over it and have pavement like smoothness all the time. But if you get your grader out there and you maintain it once a week, you're probably gonna do a pretty good job.
In the Burns Mandel report, he clearly identifies, and it's too bad we didn't sit down. I honestly think we can reduce the amount of roads over here. The money will still be there for the municipality, but instead of putting it over 30 kilometers, maybe we can put it over 10. Then you got a fighting chance to stay ahead of the curve. We haven't had a chance, Mr. Cumming. The staff is new, council is new. Right now, we got our year end that needs immediate attention. We got our 2023 budget, but we want to sit down and evaluate. I think there's an opportunity to knock off, in my opinion, about 8 miles of truck road. Take right out of the equation on this side. I think there's an opportunity. Bob, Councilor Brown and myself have talked about it. I think there's an opportunity to knock off some roads on the south side. It gives us a better chance, but right now we can't do it. We need everybody to calm down a bit. $10 a license for this year is fine. We will wait till February the 15th to see how much money comes in. Then we will do our budget. We will prioritize and say, okay, folks, where do we want to spend our money? We will reach out to some contractors who, if we see the traffic is on road A, that's probably we're going to be spending. most of our money.
I don't think anybody's gonna argue that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're
You know,
planning on
just
doing.
making sure that the money that we give goes to those hauls.
Absolutely.
That's the key for
Yeah,
us.
Mr. Cumming, well understood. Thank you for asking the question. Mr. Gilbert, go ahead.
Okay, I've been watching this since the December meeting, and there's so much untrue stuff. I do most of these roads. Last year we done, I think 1.5 miles that goes to Chater. The low road is all paved, number 1 is all paved. We done Rory Road again. We made a hell of a road out of it. So now the residents of Chater got 3 really good roads. And there really is nothing being done on those haul roads at all. I did last year, Richmond Avenue. 2.5 miles or whatever is there, 50th Street, 60th Street, all 4 of them roads lead to a golf course.
Mr.
Nothing
Gilbert,
was done on the
let's
haul.
talk, let's stay to the haul roads. That's what we.
I'm just saying where the money was spent, Sam. We done 7 miles. It goes right up to a walking path in Granite Hills. Those people that use that road aren't even taxpayers. They're bikers or from the city of Granite or whatever. That money is not going back into our RM. The haul roads, I think your public works guy did a really good job last year. We're only having 3 people, Deb in the office, Kane, and Alan Brown. They did a tremendous job. I mean, to have 1 grader to work here for 4 or 5 months, that's unreal, and the roads stay pretty good. On the south part that goes by your place there, Ed, he put 300 yards on them miles every year. Those roads stay good, do they not? They stay good because they're maintained. He makes sure they're maintained every year. Those guys do a really good job of that. If there's some misconception that road that you were just talking about, Ronnie, out to number 1 highway there. It's a good road. It needs 2 miles. It needs some work on it. 2 roads, so probably from the low road to number 1. I mean, you fix that, that's a moneymaker for this province. Every time a truck goes down, there's about 24, 25 bucks, whatever it works out to. That goes into our revenue. I had a call from Reg Atkinson after we had the last meeting. Reg phoned me from Arizona and said he doesn't, when he was the Reed, he never saw anywhere where the residents were using, the truckers were keeping the residents were keeping the truckers going. There's no evidence. Bill Curtis said the same thing. I phoned Heather Dogley, she said the same thing. There's no, they don't know of that, where that come from. But we're not responsible for 200 miles of road. Sorry, my voice is kind of going. We're only responsible for our haul roads. And I don't work over there very much. I haul at a gravel pluses pit on this side. I don't work over there very often. I got a tip. Most of the stuff I haul out of there is specialty stuff for the RM that we make, the stone, the sea base, for culverts, etc. We don't work over there too much. Every time I go over there, I just want to shake my teeth up. I don't even want to go over there. I feel sorry for Daryl that has to gravel all those roads, all through those streets and spruce woods and all that stuff. Because I pick up Facebook and all I see is how the trucks are speeding, they're going too fast, they're doing, I don't even know why you want to work over there. I really don't. Everybody's a grader out there, but we gotta learn how to work together here. Not everybody's got a bitch or a complaint. But anyway, this problem can be fixed. We got a guy right here, he's building the 18th Street Bridge. You're hiring Burns Mandel, go hire him. He knows what he's doing. Dennis Collette, he's building the bypass around Portisville Prairie. Why don't you ask these guys? It's all free information. We don't have to pay an engineer.
We'll hire an engineer, Fred.
Like these guys are very good at their job. They know what they're doing. Just ask. They will tell you. Thank you.
An engineer doesn't fix the roads. The engineer just provides the advice. You got a room full of road builders here, gravel people, and municipal roads aren't rocket science. It's not the turnpike in New Jersey. It's the people in this room can give probably the best advice there is on maintaining these roads. We're not building these roads, we're just maintaining them. So whatever money we're spending on engineering isn't actually putting anything into the roads. It's just spending money on engineering.
I think Chris made a very good point in his statement there, where he said, actually, what you need is a policing. This isn't just about engineered roads. This is about the policing. It's about the abandoned pits, it's about the garbage, it's about the dumps, it's about the current state that the pits are existing in today. It is about the eyesores that exist around us, and fully appreciate that a berm will deplete and compress over time. I can appreciate that. I live in an area where the berms are disastrous. They have never been maintained. They are a risk to anyone who should choose to use their skidoo and go out there and not realize that they are approaching a pit, because there are huge gaps in them. And I think, although it is not my area of expertise, I do think that the aggregate operators have equipment that they could use towards the maintenance of those berms, that they could themselves manage those. Whether or not they choose to is another point. But perhaps dollars can be used towards having someone who manages to keep that in check for us as a municipality.
Can I just make a comment to that? So in our particular pit, you know, we have the berms around, and the biggest thing is safety, to keep people out. Our pit's also fenced. So if they hit a barbed wire fence.
They're not everywhere.
They're not everywhere. And you're right, that's an enforcement issue.
Yeah.
That's not a, you know, that falls on the municipality to enforce that. And if you want to put some money somewhere, from, licensing, it would be to help that issue.
Mr. Cumming, and again, I wish we would have had more time. We walked in here as a new council, no staff. There was a deadline.
Well, everything's a process and nothing's
Yeah,
done overnight.
was it done right? We could have probably improved it, but we were up against the timeline, new staff. We had to get that bylaw in place by January 1st, because that's when everybody comes here to do it. We got another year to buy time. We're gonna do it right. We're gonna, as a council, sit down and see how do we wanna make that bylaw, like unsightly. We got complaints about tumbleweeds and all that. It's not just about the license. It's the unsightly things, the policing, the environmental impact. Like there's, on Facebook, there is blue lakes in the bottom, another environmentalist. We perhaps need to get the government involved. How deep are we allowed to go? Because if we're now impeding on groundwater, that's something a council shouldn't touch. Give it over to the engineer or to a legal advisor and tell us what do we do with that. Policing, I do agree, Mr. Cumming, and I believe it's happy. It's not just the issuing of the license, folks. Like there's a lot of administration. You can't burden the staff to go out and police all that. But if our police officer has to
Another
go out
point
there.
for her is, and this is something the provincial government is totally dropping on, is contractors, we pay a rehabilitation tax, right? That goes into a fund that is to be used to rehabilitate pits. And in the provincial government's wisdom, they ran out of money. They spent it elsewhere.
I just have one follow-up question from Chris Griffin on the online. I'm just gonna unmute him.
Actually, this gentleman was next there. Oh, sir. Can you take it?
I just have a question on, you talked about the provincial rates being increased, correct?
Yeah.
Again, we changed our bylaw, have you done?
Yes, in August.
Okay, we notified everybody in here on that change?
We passed I don't have the minutes right in front of.
As of August, we were supposed to be paying that new rate then.
Yes, it's supposed to be on the
Now it's
November, the third reading, but we were legislated that a municipality must.
sure, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
Operating multiple RMs.
That's administration there.
So when did that bylaw actually pass, I guess, and when did that rate actually change? Are you guys aware of that rate increase?
Just give me a moment. November the 15th is where the CEO was the third reading.
I can't remember what the date it is to start. I can find it.
It was I believe, hang on here, that the act here.
Because again, you guys are posing a lot of problems, but like something like that, are you aware of actually the increase and what that's gonna mean for the RM? Like, yeah, we're paying 200,000 this year. Do you know what that actual new rate is gonna equal to? If you
That's
if you have that
actually-
same amount?
That's a good question. In 2010, Reg Atkinson and myself at an AMM conference, I looked it up today what the fuel price was that year we met. It was 93 cents a liter according to Stats Canada. The day we met with Mr. Chomiak at the Keystone Center at the AMM, who was the minister, and Reg put on a great presentation for him. We need to see those fees increase. Folks, I don't need to tell you, since 2010, our costs probably $1.75 a liter. The graders, our labor, all the costs go up, and I appreciate that.
I think the essence of his question though is that, are we aware that they're gonna be paying more for transport fees? Yes, the answer is yes.
What I'm getting at is, we had in June, we talked about the large projects, it's no secret. You know, we are one of the largest payers of this, we said, we'll pay you guys quarterly for these large projects. We didn't really get anything back. Now that your bylaw is following the rest of the province, you guys need to be aware of the actual increase, kind of like what Ryan Cummins said there. Like, you really don't have an idea of what you're actually going to be getting next year with this increase.
Well, we do have the bylaw.
No,
Well, no, we don't, because
it's an increase in revenue though, Sam, is what he's saying, so. We don't know exactly where we're gonna be at the end of next year, no, and we don't.
However, the new bylaw, our legal counsel is checking what the provincial law is, and here with Russell Ruddy Mix.
Yeah, I know what provincial law is like.
Yeah.
Every other.
But we'd like to see it quarterly, to keep up to rebuilding the road this year. I would like to see that bylaw change to quarterly, so at least we have that money for that year.
And we said we would do that.
And actually, there was one company that, my understanding is, according to administration last year, that they do that, but some of them forget. So at the end of the day, that bylaw needs to be revisited with input from the people that are remitting and see where we can go.
And just like, again, for further suggestion. Like we talked about with these large contracts, when they're out, like you guys can talk to us, you can email us. How much aggregate you plan on moving? I'll give you a number. I gave Donna numbers all last year, January, February, March, for all the magazine know. This is what you're gonna get. We got that money now. We would have paid it then if you would have said, hey, you know, we need cash flow, whatever. Ken Magnosi sat in this room in June and talked about that. We said that. We're the old council through you guys. We just wanted this to be constructive at the end of the day. We don't all want to keep coming here and doing this. And I really think once you guys see what those new numbers are on that new bylaw, you'll be covered. It'll be more than covered.
Yeah, I got bylaw right in front of me here, so.
Sam, did you guys get a chance to read that documentation we gave you on that Saskatchewan study that was done?
I did.
If you go into that in detail, it's the best study I've ever read. There's 121 pages for that, and it's a model. And it was
Well,
done by
I
the
was up.
Saskatchewan government, the RMs, the environmental people. It's the best thing I've ever read. And it tells you where the money's gotta go, and, you know, what percentage, it said in there, 90% of your budget is spent on roads.
Got a follow-up question from Chris Griffin. Chris, are you able to say something?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a, here, if I go off a video, it's just because of,
Second
I
slide
think-
is screen for everyone.
I think that it goes back to that, I'll kind of a follow-up question there from Russell Ready Mix. In business, we have to look at our costs, yes, cost tomorrow, and as a council, you do too. And I think the reality of what it comes down to is, Sam, is you have a room full of individuals that are professionals in the industry that can help you and probably negotiate through some of the slides that you're talking about to find solutions. Your first slide that you presented was an assumption based off of certain things from a consulting company, engineering consulting company, and I won't speak poorly of them, but of things that need to be done. But I think the thing is what you presented forward and the process that you presented forward, as I think Ron spoke to, has been sort of down your throat. I'll go back to those 3 or 4 items. If this group of individuals that you have in this room works with council, I think there's a solution here. But I think the other thing you can do is you can take your historical data backwards. And you can also take it forward to figure out what those expenditures are going to be. And I mean, everybody in the room, but I'll speak for us. We maintain our own road. So we put on, I think it was about 400 yards of gravel and 3/4 of a mile last year, and maintained it with our own graders and used our own materials to do that. And the reason we did that is because it serviced our clientele better. And I think that there's probably the same people in this room would feel the same way. So if you are upside down on your dollars, as Russell was speaking to, if there's a scenario where we're going to be paying X amount of dollars over a quarter or over 9 months of the year, whatever it is, and you need assistance on some of these projects, I don't think there's anybody in the room that wouldn't help out, but it has to be done the right way. And by pushing that bylaw through, and you keep on talking about changing the bylaw, there is a process to that. And that's all we're asking for, is a fair process to go forward, that we don't just turn around and identify that the droning fee or the fees that you're suggesting that goes to the licensing fees of these pits are going to be costed back to the property owners based off of these numbers that you're showing. And I think that if you look at, and my suggestion is that once those numbers are put forward for this year, you have those historical numbers presented for the last 3 years and going forward of what's needed, you're going to see a completely different picture. And the connotation of taxpayers subsidizing the gravel companies is going to change the whole view. So with that letter from the aggregate association that's been sent to you, I think that that's what that's asking as well, is we absolutely work together to find a solution on this, but I think we have to look at the real data. And I think that you have a lot of data, but I think there's a lot more there that's maybe not present. And if we can ask that we would be able to have that data maybe by the end of March, then that would allow your February numbers to come in. You'd be able to look at the past information based off, but also based off of what you believe your forward is going to be over the next 2 to 3 years. And then we would be able to have a conversation of what the actual cost would be and what you assume the cost to be to go forward to run the municipality roads, especially on those haul roads.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'd just like to say one thing about, I have no problem, never have paying my fair share of my way in on the roads. It's never been a problem. 2 years ago, we had a road, a bit of a problem there. So we went down, we got permission from council for 400 yards off. I'm not 4,000 bucks or whatever. And, took the road almost up to our town. So we gotta be careful, like, you can keep jacking these taxes and they up and up and up. We gotta compete 6 miles away, with pits that don't pay any tax in the city right. West of us, from west of us to the Saskatchewan border, no tax. It's getting tough to, you gotta eat it, that's the bottom road, that's the bottom line, is you take up to, you're told to eat it. Our haul road, 1 kilometer up to number 10 highway. To my knowledge, and what house this thing's been going 10 years, I don't think there's been, Bobby could correct me on this, I don't think there's been $1,000 spent on that road. We paid thousands and thousands of dollars. Road tax. Where did it go? That's, where did it go? And one thing on the droning, very good at Terry to come out, I wanted to show him our pit. We have something like 38 piles in that pit, all the way from 10 yards, 20 yards. Some berms that were forced by energy mines to keep the berms on for safety. Or this, whatever. And the other part is that if you're going to try and drone that pit, we operate year round. Drone that pit like tomorrow or anything, 30-some piles, a lot of it's on uneven ground. Lots of times there's water in there, 2, 3, 4 feet up on the piles. In bad seasons. It is an absolute impossibility to drone that pit and come anywhere close to any accuracy. Now you can drone it, charge the speed, whatever. It's gonna come down to the far end. All we're gonna do is instead of put gravel on the roads. We're going to heat it up and leave it just because the two of us are gonna be a mile and a half apart. So there's some issues there that gotta be addressed. Thank you. Different people I know, droning people I've talked to. One of them, I talked to them about droning our pit there. They just said, well, we'd like to work. It was not. Sure, they'll take it on. But if down the road, it is not going to be perfect. I wish it would come out accurate, but it won't. And then what happens? Some people said here tonight. It's confrontation that nobody needs. So this, it would be impossible. So just don't ask me to spend $6,000 on droning for something that's not possible.
Mr. Nichols. The 6,000 was the starting point. You heard it tonight. It's $1,700. The quote came in after, but there's so many other things we heard tonight, policing, weeds and all that. That's $6,000. How to make it clear, in my opinion, the mileage fee and the tonnage should go to the maintaining of those roads. Because you're hauling, that's wear and tear. The license can be made into what does council feel the mining fee should cover? The volume move, policing, because that police truck doesn't run on air, okay, it's still on diesel, gasoline. You're gonna need, whether people like it or not, we're gonna need engineering help, folks. If we're expecting engineering help for subdivisions, I think it's time to get engineering help, expertise on these roads, because we have to look at it. We've got KGS basically just did a review on our roads. We're gonna have to come up with a good plan to maintain our roads in the short, long, or medium and long term. We have to. I just hear all the questions about, I'm gonna say the Cottonwood gravel pit. That's where primarily most of the gravel gets used. Folks, I beg you to drive out there. Those roads need attention. You're not gonna fix it with $100,000 and $200,000 worth of gravel. We need to come up with a long-term plan, like the KGS report says, in my opinion.
There's only one thing we could, these Spanish people mentioned here tonight, the qualifications in this room, and you're not gonna get better qualifications anywhere in Western Canada. There's a problem with the engineers. If I was an engineer and I was taking out the magazine right there, I'm gonna do core samples, I'm gonna do everything, because I gotta protect my budget. I'm gonna come up with standards of what has to be done to protect my engineering company and myself. And you're gonna have a road twice as good as you need. Cost, and just.
I just want to thank everybody for the cordial nature. I think everybody's here for a solution, council and the folks here and the people online. Just to keep things kind of moving along. Or we could probably go on and debate all night, but just I'm sure we're going to be discussing this and having you know, more meetings with you folks, I hope, because I'm learning a lot just listening to this stuff. Bob, I think you wanted to share maybe. I'll let Bob bring it up. Time here.
Where the $500. I've asked Bob to, where he came up with the $500.
Well, I guess it goes back to probably our last meeting that we had with you people back in last summer sometime. And everybody was tossing different figures out, and I alluded to, it was something that compared to what we charge for our water stations that people can get their water from. And commercial people that live in the RM or own land in the RM would be paying $500 for that fee. So that's where I come up with the $500. Everybody else kind of thinks I'm maybe a bit out to lunch, but that's where that 500 originated from. What I had said, maybe that's where you people are coming from too, I don't know, but that was my suggestion that at that time in June or July or whatever it was. So that's where that $500 comes from. So it wasn't a calculated figuring that I come up with, it was just a statistic from another source of being the water.
Thanks,
On
Bob.
their end.
And as the interim CAO, I was asked to come up with some numbers and I saw it as $10 and, you know, I thought it needed to come up a lot, but as the other gentleman also mentioned, I also noticed, you know, we did pass the bylaw to increase the fees. So, but I guess I can see a balance from both sides, from, you know, the Reeves perspective, Councillor Brown's, and also the gravel pit owners. But I like the cordial atmosphere in the room tonight and the willingness on the side of everybody to work together on this, to find a solution, a good balance. Yes.
Yeah, Doug Patterson is
Doug, yeah.
my name, and I might be coming into the movie halfway through here, and hopefully I'm not out of line, but looking at this from 60,000 feet, I'm hearing problems outlined by council and your worship, and I'm hearing this side of the fence, they're saying they would like to discuss it and help out and use their expertise. I don't know why a task force could not be, a committee could not be struck to examine the problem, see if there is a problem, number one. And for any problems that are outlined, then try to use their expertise here to come up with solutions that would be satisfactory to everybody. The other thing I've noticed over the years too is that this council is a member of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. There's probably some expertise there you could draw on. Maybe there's other people that have the same problems. I'm pretty sure this isn't the only municipality in Canada. There's also the Canadian Association of Municipalities. So I'm pretty sure there's some expertise out there, people that have gone down this road before that could help out. You just have to contact them, and this committee that I'm suggesting could cover a lot of ground quickly.
Thanks, Doug. Actually, I've looked at the something called like an asset management team or an asset management committee. I think that is needed in this RM to look at our assets, where we got a really detailed report. We're gonna have more information coming from KGS on the state of our roads and culverts and bridges, and we've prioritized the financial analyst Tracy did a great job consulting with our public works folks and the KGS folks and coming up with a priority list. Now, I know everyone, the gravel guys here, most of the haul roads and where the money's going to maintain the haul roads, but there's other people in the room here who are interested in the rest of the roads and the whole RM, and I think everybody's interested in the same solution, having good, safe roads and good infrastructure. And I think that's what council wants too. So I think a committee being struck to look at this as well would be good, because I think people can work well together. Thanks for your comment, Doug.
If I could just add to that idea, sometimes it's wise to hire what I would call an expert in leading committees, so that you're not just gazing at your navel for the next 11 months sort of thing. If you hire somebody that knows what they're talking about, can be the whip, as it were, and keep things going and people not talking to their toque all day long sort of thing.
I think that's wise.
Can I touch on that $500? Sam said $10. Everybody in this room, we're willing to pay $500 for this year. I'm gonna put my neck out on that. Now we'll go towards policing. Maybe you want to hire a gravel checker, whatever. There's gonna be $15,000 to $17,000 coming to this RM that we're donating to this RM for a license fee. Like, we're willing to work with you to help, whatever it takes. We're not the big bad wolf here. And, Brody here's got some numbers from Mute Concrete on how much it has changed from last year to this year. The aggregate fee, so he'll make a little presentation.
I guess first off, question, so August of 2022. The province amended municipalities act, increasing the maximum rate that can be charged by the municipality ratepayers. Did Cornwallis adopt those maximum rates? So those percentages increased by 74% from the old rate. Just speaking quantitatively, the deficit on the presentation earlier was $212,000 over a 5-year window. Over $45,000 a year, I think Ron had that nearly gone through. The revenues brought in were 245 grand 2 years ago. A 74% increase creates 150 grand additional revenues. That triples the deficit per year in the last couple of years, and that's not even touching.
Yeah,
So the maximum rates alone will create that surplus. If that number of 74% wasn't aware around council earlier, I think that alone addresses quite a bit of deficit.
Good point, but the snapshot I gave you was from 2016 to, so our costs now have increased significantly too. When we were paying $1.10 for fuel, it's $1.75. Administration costs, it's all going up at the same rate. Like people say, I've got the bulletin right in front of me here. We calculated 46%. I don't know where you got the 74 from. I believe Terry, it was a 46% increase in.
26 cents to 47 cents.
Yes, but it wasn't a 74%. We had somebody calculated for us everything with the mileage and everything based on our income. Somebody did a calculation, it was 46% more. So I didn't do the calculation.
Depends how far you're hauling.
Yeah,
It's all-
exactly.
It's all the transportation.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
This guy, it's only.
Yeah.
But it's still.
Like- The big circle up on top, we'll get 1 mile, but we got less maintenance then because.
They're from Winnipeg, don't worry about it.
What's that?
They're from Winnipeg, don't worry about it.
No, that's.
Charge more.
It's all the, like, as the fees go up, I mean, we begged for that fee increase with Mr. Chomiak in 2010. That's when we went to him. 12 years later, we finally got it. And I realize you guys have to pass it on to the consumer or the buyer at the end.
Is the council looking at a property tax increase?
And what?
Property tax increase?
We don't even have a year end. That's why I say, folks, I want you to be patient. We're at $10. The bylaw is still in place. We're nowhere near the year end. We've got new staff, they're working hard. And we haven't even done the first pass budget.
we're
yet.
getting close to year end, which will give us accurate numbers to present a council budget for 2023, and then council will have to look at what the increase might need to be. Yes.
Just one last thing, and then I will stop talking. Just for you, Sam, we have an engineer on staff. And I think Russell Ready Mix has probably got a dozen, half a dozen, like that.
Yeah, that's good, good to know.
Yeah.
And my bit of advice is, don't worry about what people say on Facebook. Cause it's just a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo and garbage.
We're listening to the complaints that we're getting text and letters from our roads. That's what we want to deal with.
Yeah.
So,
Instead of doing that on Facebook, they could maybe send a letter or actually put a name behind the complaint. It almost seems like your goal is to penalize everybody instead of penalizing the people that are breaking the rules, because that's what I see. And I could be wrong. That's why, there's fines and things like that. Penalize the people that break the rules. Don't penalize everybody, and that's the way I see it.
Thank you for, so folks, as a community, what are the next steps here? Going forward after this meeting, after we go home tonight, what are the next steps? Sam?
I think you need council and maybe we have a board, all of us, we formed a new board to deal with municipalities, not only this one, Whitehead, Elton, and Oakland. And already 2 municipalities have reached out to us, maybe to get information about crushing, specs, that sort of stuff. We're here for everybody. All of our sister municipalities, I've talked to Shawnee and Elton. It's all in that brochure that I gave you folks. A great study from Saskatchewan on our end. We're doing our part to try to make it better. We know the roads, they're getting pretty tough, some of them. I know over there, they really are. Bob Brown's ward and Emma's ward, you won't find better roads in Manitoba. So I don't know what happened here, but there's a big difference in the roads.
Doug, maybe I'll give you the final word, because I think you and I are on the same page when it comes to a next step.
Yeah, I was gonna say, James, to answer your question, it seems to me that the council will have to discuss amongst themselves the idea of having a task force, and then you're gonna have to invite people to be on that task force. I would say keep it reasonably small, like maybe 7 people.
Yeah, or I know there's a concept for an asset management team. I believe there's even been one in RM before. I haven't found a whole lot of information on it, but an asset management team could be composed of something like the police board, where you have a community member, a council member, or a couple council members, you know, and you know, somebody from the gravel business, so that it's equally weighed, you know, as far as you know, coming up with the priorities.
With respect, that sounds a little bureaucratic and a little general. I think we want to deal with this business of aggregate issues.
Right.
That's been raised by the Beaver Council.
Yeah, so maybe it's 2
Not get
separate
too
things.
far afield with anything else.
Yeah, it could be 2 set. Okay, so you have a task force for this gravel business.
Yeah, Doug, we appreciate that, and we heard it last spring, it was June the 27th, when the gravel people were in front of us. There was supposed to be committees formed. It all fell apart. CEO retired, moved on, but at the end of the day, on October 26th, the phase changed here, new staff. Right now, this council's priorities are get the year end done, our budget, and we're gonna hire a permanent CAO, whether it's James or whatever. That's our priority. We want the new CAO to drive this thing, not the Reeve and council. He will advise us, but that's our goal. So don't expect a committee here in the next month or 2. We've got a whole year, folks. I mean, you're at $10 a year for your license. Let it be $10, even though Fred volunteered to put $500 in the pot. We've got a bylaw in place that says the licensing fee is $10. We're gonna keep it there.
You don't want the bathwater to get too cool either. Let's get going while. this is
Exactly,
hot.
but we don't have the resources right now.
You
We
got
need
citizens
information.
complaining about roads, blah, blah, blah. So let's, I would say don't take too long.
What I would really like to see, and then to do it up to council, but you're right, though. It has to be dealt with sooner rather than later. It's gonna get busy season for all of you people. It's gonna have to be done before springtime, and I'm sure we can come up with another date that we can sit down, just like we are tonight, but just on a smaller version of people, and get some of these ideas. They're gonna be constructive, and there's lots of good ideas out there.
We've got in front of us, the only thing we have, folks, is the 2021. Tracy tried looking, James tried looking, what we would like as a council to make a good, sound decision. I don't mind sitting down, but I think we need data. Like Mr. Cummings said, let's get the data. And Tracy's, right now, she can't focus on going looking back 7 years and get that. I'd really like to see a 7-year snapshot, not the 5. That's the only information we got, but I think, folks, we owe the pit owners and the residents data, put it out on the table, and then go from there. Sitting down now, I mean, we're at 40 meetings already since October, trying with interviews and all that, but at the end of the day, meetings, a task force, we're actually the company that's doing the asset management. Their recommendation is to have residents be part of that asset management. We will elect residents far and wide expertise, they recommend them to be on that board, and they will be.
I think he's talking about a separate one, task force for this, and I like that idea. And
We need data, we need data. Like I say, we can't make decisions if we don't have the data, so we need the data.
Well, I don't want to argue all night long, but if you strike the committee with good people on it and maybe a neutral leader, okay, to pull everybody through the knothole, they will help you get the right information, the data that you're talking about, instead of having some expert give it. They will help you get the right data that makes sense, common sense.
Well, the data should be hopefully in a file somewhere. but we
Well,
can't find it.
They'll have data. Committee members will have their own data too, though. They'll have some information for you, some ideas. So I think it makes sense to form the committee and then go to the data. With respect.
It was a,
So where are you at for a timeline? Are you going to postpone it, get a committee up and running and postpone it till you get your numbers in at the end of March? Or what's coming in from the aggregate, or are you gonna try and do something before that? As a license fee?
the license fee is $10. We can't change it.
Okay,
But, I mean, once the bylaw, once we didn't follow the proper procedure in the bylaw, we were stuck with the old bylaw, so you're at $10. In fact, I'm not sure how many licenses got issued already, so it'd be unfair to go back to those people that have already paid the $10. So on February the 15th, we will have a good idea how much money will have come in for 2022.
I think it's the end of February.
No, the bylaw says, the license is the 15th of February.
But I mean, what's coming in from what was taken out as aggregate?
The bylaw, the licensing, certainly got a copy here, is
I thought
February
it was the end of February.
We'll find out what that date is.
can I, just one sec, I see you back there. Can I just make a recommendation? This could go on all night. Can we make a decision on a path going forward that we are going to create a task force?
We as a council. will sit down.
Council will discuss that.
Council will discuss that. We've got other higher priorities right now than striking a task force. It's important, don't get me wrong, but we're right in the middle of interviewing CEOs. We're right in the middle, folks, and so
Can we make a commitment to when that might happen though? Because I think it's important to everybody in the group.
in March,
March.
by middle of March.
Okay,
I hope you're gonna have the data for us. We're gonna put the
I
pressure
will
on
do
you.
my best if I'm still here. Yes, in the back.
Suggestion, which kind of is piggybacking on the gentleman from Russ already had said. But for us layman people that aren't in the gravel business and all of the folks watching on Zoom, I'm just wondering if it could be helpful for projecting the budget of the RM. If, like, I was digging around on the Merck site, which is where you can see the companies that are being awarded the tenders, and you can see what level of aggregate. If when they're receiving, like they're doing a forecast of how much work they have coming forward for the year, if they would be able to perhaps submit an estimate to the RM so that the RM could use that in trying to project what their budget will be going forward, right? Because right now it seems like we're getting the money a year late. And so then we don't know how to plan going forward. So perhaps with maybe adjusting when those remittances are submitted, along with some kind of forecasting might help.
And I think that's a good point. The gentleman over here mentioned potentially having quarterly payments, I believe. Okay, I think somebody online has a question. And then we probably have to wrap it up here, folks. Glad we did get a commitment to have the task force in March, or at least the council to discuss that.
That's what I copy the license here. Bill, I'll text you, but I'm almost certain it's February the 15th. I looked at it the other day. No, February the 15th to submittance hasn't been.
So I don't see any questions on the yeah. So folks, I think that we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. If that's okay with everyone. I know that it's been a great discussion. I want to thank everybody here for their time and comments, everybody online, everybody who is listening. So I think that we can end the night by saying that we have a plan to have a task force, and that we all in this room and online want the same thing, which is there to be honest and fair business being done in the RM, as well as the roads being fixed, and good governance from the RM side. I think that that's the path going forward, and thank Sam for his presentation. What I saw tonight was there was nobody in the room disputing what Sam was saying, but potentially that there's more information, and there's also a willingness on the business owner's side. There's a good faith gesture there. I saw a lot of it. There was very little arguing tonight. There was, how can we find a resolution together? So hopefully that is a good path going forward. I was hoping that this meeting wouldn't go off the rails or anything, and it didn't. So thank you all for your time, and we'll be talking soon, I'm sure.
Bill, I was wrong, and you're wrong. February the 25th is when the remittance has to be in from the prior year. It's right in the license.
It's 8:30. I'm gonna end our meeting. Have a good night, everyone. Drive safe.